now on Thursday. Yes, I will do the normal audio and put up the normal audio podcast on
Yeah,
Monday. But that does
that's all right.
mean that if people want to watch it on YouTube, they get it early, which isn't
Yeah,
a
that's
big
all right.
deal.
It's for the early subscribers, dude.
But I didn't think about that initially. So
Welcome back to the Fire You Carry podcast. Noel is repping the flag behind us, and I have TFYC shirt on. Let's go. The Fire You Carry. Hey, we're trying something new. We're going live on the YouTubes. So, um, anyways, that's what we're doing.
people have been clamoring for us to do this for a good 2 years. Too many names to mention, but our good friend Rich Zuniga has been on us about this really since the inception of the podcast. So through some other people encouraging us, my own brother Edward and others, we're giving it a shot. So we're just going to do our thing. We're going to record our episode right now, but it's streaming live, which is a new experience for us. So bear with us.
So, real quick before we started, your ringtone came on, and I don't know if you can do that again, or or maybe it was a text message thread, but it always makes me super happy. And it's a funny thing because it comes from the Robin Hood, the cartoon Robin Hood, and this always makes me super happy when I hear this.
Let's see if I
But
can get it to play.
you remember when? There it is. Put it up
You
to
hear
the
that?
mic.
Can you hear that? It's pretty loud.
And somehow there was like a cowboy chicken that would narrate to this song, and he'd play some sort of mandolin during it. It's amazing.
That song, I think it's called Not in Nottingham. It's a really good song. It's kind of sad. And believe it or not, many years ago, the band Mumford and Sons did a
Mumford.
cover of it. I love it.
Mm.
It exists on some live thing on YouTube somewhere, but it's good. It is good. And that ringtone I've been using for probably a decade. And I originally chose it because it was unique. And so I would always know if it was my phone ringing. And now I cannot not use it
No,
because
it's your signature sound.
yeah, and people hear it. Yes, literally yesterday, I was working with a captain, and my phone rang, and he goes, "Is that the Robin Hood movie?" And yeah, people love it.
Yeah, it's great. But it's funny. Remember, you used to have to pay for ringtones.
Oh yeah,
Well, I've been trying to avoid ringtones for probably 10 years, though. I'm not, mine on silent, right? Like, that's not a thing
right,
for me.
right.
I'm like, I don't want any more disturbances.
Yeah, yeah. It's
It's great.
often muted. It is often muted. And in order to get it on the phone way back in the day, I actually went and ripped it off of
Oh, the
some.
Napsters?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did that and then added it to the phone.
I
So I
love
didn't
it.
pay for it because it wasn't available. You couldn't buy it. I actually went and looked for it.
I
So
love
when you
it.
couldn't do that, I pirated it, and it's still the original file that I created however long ago.
That's great. Now you can't get rid of it.
No, I'll keep it.
So it's Christmas time. We've talking about don't letting the old man in last episode about the 4x48 and ran 48 miles with some savages, but then some comments came up and you had an idea today.
Yeah, man. So I was randomly listening to. I was scrolling through my YouTube feed, which I do far too much of. I actually have a timer limit on my YouTube app
Oh dear.
to keep myself from just endlessly doom scrolling YouTube. But I saw a clip of Jocko, and it was like his. I guess he's got an extra podcast called The Underground or something. Like his own normal podcast isn't enough, so he's got some
Yeah.
extra thing called The Cave of Pain. I don't know what it's called. Anyway, it was a clip from that, so it was still Jocko, but he was talking to his boy Echo Charles, the guy with the biceps. You know the guy,
Yeah.
and they were answering a question from a listener, and the guy's question was basically, "I'm old." I think the dude said he was 45. And how do I hang with the younger guys that I work with? I think he was in law enforcement. And that part of the conversation was interesting enough. But at the very end of the clip, Echo Charles started talking about his perspective. And he didn't use the term on not letting the old man in, but that's what he was talking about. And
Mm.
essentially, what he said was he hears in his jujitsu gym all the time the guys who are the old guys talking about how, oh, yeah, well, I'm pretty good for an old guy and that type of language. And he also mentioned just this idea that he catches himself groaning when he gets up from a sitting position or off the
Oh,
ground, doing the old man like, ugh, and how he was actively trying to fight against that tendency because he didn't want to let that weakness in. And so that tiny little bit of a conversation started this thought process, and then we dumped it into our little group that we have going on with some of the other fire you carry guys. And yeah, man, I just wanted to talk about that because it hit me right between the eyes, especially the groaning part. I don't
Oh,
yet talk
we
about
do
how I'm the
this.
old guy, but I do that. I actively did it today.
There's thousands of memes about this. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
it's a
Like
thing.
the guy sitting down, getting up. I'm pretty guilty of it. I'm good on Echo Charles to have the self awareness. I think we do it subconsciously.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely subconscious, but once I heard him talk about it, I immediately knew I have to stop doing that.
Dude, yes.
Like, which
Right?
is
Because what it's almost like self talk, right?
yeah, right.
And there's a lot of woo woo stuff out there. You know what I mean? Like The Secret and all these things that, you know, people listen to where it's like, hey, you can manifest this and manifest that.
Right, right.
But I
Nonsense.
do think that I think a lot of that is nonsense. But I do think that having positive self talk or removing these negative type of things are absolutely beneficial because you can choose joy or you can choose depression. Like I feel like that's sometimes a choice, right? And yes, I have been periods of depression, and so have other people. But also you can kind of fake it till you make it. Like right, you can say, how many we were just talking about these absolute warriors and savages that just don't complain. They just put their shoes on, they go run. That's part of it. You know they're hurting. They just don't say anything. They suck it up and they go do it. And that's that kind of that stoicism that I think as men we kind of respect, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a weird area where there is definitely a tendency in kind of the world that we're in where you can take that too far. You can go into the manifesting stuff and do all that. But I think mindset and that shift in your mindset is really powerful. And we've talked about it a lot before in the context of doing something hard, like the 4x4x48, where you have that moment where you decide, I'm not going to quit. And it doesn't make it easier. It doesn't change anything really physically, but mentally, it does change everything because you've removed that option from the table. And I think the resistance and the realization that when I go to climb in the fire engine or when I get up from sitting on the couch and I go, and, because my legs are sore or my back hurts or whatever, subconsciously, I'm acknowledging that, right? I'm saying,
Mm.
yeah, I'm
Ugh.
hurting, I'm sore. And not doing it doesn't make it not true, but I feel like it removes a little bit of that power that it has over me, that conscious moment of saying, "No, you know what? Yeah, I'm sore, but who cares? I can get up off this couch all day." It's the Captain America meme. I can do this all day, right? It's silly to complain about something like that, but we all naturally do it. And I don't know. I don't know if I'm just a little bit mental with this kind of stuff, but I mean, like I said, as soon as I heard him say that, I thought I have got to eliminate that from my life.
Oh, immediately. I thought the same thing, but I take it into two different contexts. So there's home life and there's work life, right? In work life, I notice, working on a squad, being a paramedic, you get interrupted quite often when you're trying to do something that you want to do. Let's say it's just even lunch, and we get a
Mhm.
nice hot lunch, and then ding, chest pain, and you go, ugh, and yes, I will get up, walk with a purpose. I don't typically try to dilly dally, and then you get to the rig and you go on the call. But could I just put my fork down and just go to the call and not
Mm.
grunt and not complain? Because that's setting a precedent for this call. Like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. There's something more important than your emergency. And that's not really what we're called to do. Our job is going on these calls. And I think sometimes I forget because we're doing all this rad stuff with rad people and we get to work out and breathe and do the ice bath and sauna and, all those things. We have a lot of camaraderie at our station, and I'll go, because I get interrupted like in the morning if we're doing Wim Hof breathing. I'm like, I don't need to do that. That's my job. Get up, shut your mouth, stop grunting, go to the call.
Yeah, that's a perfect example actually of how that mindset shift even affects the outcome of where you're going and what you're going to do when you're at the station and the fire tones go off and you're at the station where the guys start throwing chairs all over the place and sprinting to the rig and falling over each other and throwing on their gear as fast as possible. We've talked about this before. Those are the guys that show up on the fire ground and they're spun up and their brains are moving so fast, their bodies are moving so fast that they're going to miss stuff and they're going to be less effective than if they'd stayed calm. I mean, it's proven, right? These studies have been done, not in the fire world, but in the military world. It's that whole adage, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. But if you get up for that same thing and you calmly, with a purpose, move to the rig, calmly put your gear on, you get on the rig the same amount of time that the guy who's apparently rushing does. I've tested that hundreds of times, and I always make it on the rig, often before the guy who's rushing. But then when you get to the call, whatever it is, you're in a better state of mind because you've chosen to look at it differently. You might be excited about it. It might be a little bit scary is not the right word. Nobody gets afraid going to a structure fire, but but you know what I mean. But keeping
Yeah.
yourself cool, calm, and collected, and that's just a more advanced version of, not complaining. But the complaint is the part of it where when it's a medical call, if we go into that, and I've done this, I was guilty of this yesterday. Got a medical call, looked at the thing, went, "Oh man, really?" And complained in my brain, not verbally, but I was just like not happy about going to the call because I was in the middle of something.
That's it.
And then that's my attitude on the call. Now, of course, I delivered wonderful service to the citizens. I did my job, but inside I'm just annoyed. And that's my job, right? So that's the wrong way to go about it. It's just that little bit of a shift. And that takes consciousness, right? That takes being aware of it, which is why I think something like this and that little clip is helpful.
Yeah, it reminds me we had early on in the podcast, this had to be 3 or 4 years ago, is the great Ed Wilson, who is one of my favorite paramedics and firemen on the job. And he was talking about how he's always worked busy station. He's always been at 41s and Willowbrook, Compton area. He's been all over the place, but he's always worked busy spots. And he when he'd go there, he would try to get early on, he would get super frustrated because he would come to work with expectations of he was going to get his oil changed or he's
Mm,
going to rotate his tires or he's going to do something that would save him time at home, right? And then he's getting pissed off. He's getting pissed off at work because inevitably you're getting interrupted by call after call after call. And then he's out there at 2 in the morning trying to finish the rotation of the tires, so he can, and he's completely going home pissed off. He's pissed off at work. It's not working.
mm.
And he said somewhere along the line, I forget what time frame it is, maybe 10, 15 years into his career, he stopped having expectations of trying to do stuff at work. And it's almost like being present. When I'm at work, I'm at work. He's like, I'm just sitting in the chair talking to the boys, waiting for the next call. And it changed his mindset completely that he's like, I was happy to go on calls. I was totally happy to go. I wasn't getting irritated. This is my job, right? And I kind of like that to say, hey, we kind of do that on both sides. At home, maybe I'm doing something for work, and then at work, I'm doing something for home, and like neither work out because I'm getting torn in three different directions and I'm getting pissed off. It's about kind of just being present and saying, hey, God has you here for a reason today. Why don't you just try to be present?
I like that perspective a lot. That was a great episode. That's an old one. You guys should go back and listen to it.
Yeah,
I'm
go
not
look
going
at
to tell
Ed
you what number
Wilson.
it is because I don't know what number it is, but it's back there. It's back in the back catalog.
But this is a thing though, right? Because like I had people know I had neck surgery 3 years ago, and to this day, it's a challenge, right? I have to have like this special pillow cube and create this fortress to sleep on my side so that my neck's aligned, and it doesn't work, right? So every morning I wake up, it feels like you got hit by a semi truck, and the first thing I do is, and I roll into bed, and I have to do some stretches, and I read the Bible, and I pray, and I meditate, and by the time like I warm up a little bit, I'm good to go, and I'm like my normal jovial self. But I do have to choose, like, in the morning to be like, "Okay, is this gonna set the tone? Am I gonna be a grumpy pants and just complain that I'm super stiff, or are you gonna just shut up and do something about it?" You know?
We were talking in the group about this idea, kind of just getting some perspective on whether or not this would be something we should record as an episode. And our buddy Randy was talking about going up a flight of stairs. And Randy, I hope you don't mind that I share this, but he shared that he was going up a flight of stairs at work and he caught himself after the conversation we had about talking about the groaning and kind of being the old man. He caught himself using the handrail and he consciously went, "I don't need to use the handrail. What am I doing?" And just walked up the stairs, which is so small and seemingly insignificant. But if we're talking about not letting the old man in, like those are the type of things that we just do and don't think about. But do we have to do them? Is there value in not doing them? And as I thought about that, was as I was preparing for this, dude, I went to a different place that I kind of struggle with even talking about this, because I don't know that I have a good answer or a tie-in for this. But what it made me think of, and not because of Randy and the stairs, but because I started going down this old man road, thinking about being an old guy. It made me think about the amount of times I've been on calls, medical calls, where there was an elderly person, man or a woman, who had fallen down, and somewhere in the conversation it comes up that they have a walker that they're supposed to use, but they don't use it. And we always, and usually there's family around, and they usually are accusing, saying, they never use their walker. And we always say, you need to use the walker. And I had this light bulb moment as I started thinking about this, going, if I'm that old guy and I'm, let's say, 96 years old, right? I probably won't make it that far, but if I'm that old guy and my doc's like, yeah, you should probably use a walker, you're getting a little unstable. What do you think I'm going to be doing?
Trying to use the stairs with no
I'm going to be
walker.
trying to use the stairs with no walker, no handrail, because I'm not going to want to give up. And so, respect to those people. Now, they still need to use their walker because we don't want them to fall and break a hip. But at the same time, like, I respect
Yeah.
that desire to keep that independence, that desire to just keep the old man out, even when you are actually officially undisputed the old man. There's still an aspect of that, and obviously that's way in the advance in the future. I don't think
But
we
it's
have
a
anybody listening that's 96.
no, but it's a delicate balance because even for
Right.
me at 46, post neck surgery, that I'm dramatically different than I was pre neck surgery.
Hmm.
And because of that, I can't really I I used to do powerlifting, competed in a powerlifting meet. I used to love to jack heavy weight for my size, and I would squat 3 days a week and I would deadlift twice a week and I do a lot of that, but the compression on my neck with cervical disc replacement doesn't work anymore.
Right.
And so it was a very hard transition. And our friend, Captain Mike Kenobi, same thing. He was injured and he couldn't do his jujitsu for a year. And he realized mentally and spiritually, he had to do a lot of soul searching because the tool that we had that we used was the one of the main and only tools we used. I do think that there's a level of acceptance as we age
Yeah.
to say that maybe, just maybe, we are not going to sign up for a 100-meter sprint competition or a max effort back squat
Yeah.
or whatever. As we age, I think there is something good or maybe relatively good to say, hey, I'm not letting the old man in, but this isn't wise to continue to do this if it means I'm going to be in a wheelchair at 50.
Right. Right. We have to be realistic. Yeah. I think that's fair. That makes sense.
I
We don't
just
want to go ahead.
No, go ahead. I just talked to my buddy Joe Flahaven. He's a
Mhm.
captain in Glendale. He's one of my best friends, but his dad is my hero. This big Joe Flahaven. He's a waterman up in San Francisco, and he has the record for swimming the Alcatraz Golden Gate swims. He served. This dude is almost 90. He's 89 years old. He gets up at 4 a.m. and swims a mile, half a mile out in the San Francisco Bay in speedos, and that water is frigid,
Of
and swims
course.
a half a mile back.
Oof.
So he called Joe up and his son, he said, hey, can you buy me a snorkel and send it to me? And he's like, what are you doing? You're 90 years old. Like, what are you doing? And so he's an open water swimmer and an accomplished open water swimmer. But at 90, he's saying he can't really rotate and get
Mm,
his breath.
mm,
He's not going to stop swimming.
mm.
He just needs a snorkel so that he can just kind of keep cruising. And I'm like, okay, respect, but insane. I get it, but
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
nutty, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's funny because when you talk to him, his wife, who's like 88, she's like, tell him not to go swimming anymore. Tell him to get out of the water. They're going to
Right.
find him dead. And he's like, I hope they do.
Right. No, yeah, totally. You gotta respect that. You gotta respect that. Yeah, that makes sense. That
So
makes
do we
sense.
adapt?
You got to
And
adapt.
you just so you're not letting the old man in saying, "I'm gonna give up swimming," but you're
Right.
adapting.
Yeah, because the reality is that there are certain things that as we age, we're not going to be able to continue to do like we were 20, right? That we can't
Right.
deny that, and we can't mental toughness our way out of that stuff. So yeah, you definitely have to adapt. I think a lot of this comes down to also kind of the way we talk, either verbally or self-talk, which you mentioned at the beginning. But how do we, if we're not going to be the guy who is making excuses, so in a made up scenario, say I'm working out at the station and I've got a couple of brand new young 20-year-old firemen and we've got to work out together. And if I don't want to be the guy that's like using the phrase, I'm the old guy and making excuses for the fact that my performance isn't going to be up to the standards of these 20-year-olds, then what do we do instead? Do we just stay quiet about it and just let it be what it is? Is using that language an excuse? Are we making excuses for what we see as shortcomings? Like, what is that? Or is it even just a cultural
Mm.
thing where once you get to a certain age, you kind of just talk like that because that's what you've seen, that's what you've heard?
Well, there's literally examples of, I think, kind of the way it should be, and even we had, James Reyes on our show twice, actually, recently. Was it this year? It was this year, I think. I go back. He's a EOD Marine and did contracting afterwards, but you can imagine an EOD world, deployed multiple times. He was blown up by an IED, and he's had 6 back surgeries, and now, if you he would never know. You would never know. I see him out there grinding every day. He follows a program, like programming from one of those, it's like Hero Watt or one of those things that he follows. I forget what it was. But what he doesn't do, he doesn't participate in some of the nonsense, like crazy stuff that you and I would create in the afternoon. He does his program and his workout, and he's a complete savage. But what he's figured out is that he does his mobility work, he does his workout, and he does his post mobility workout. That is it. That's good. It keeps him fit. He's fitter than almost everybody. He keeps in shape. Is not, but he's not participating in, like, if you had 15, 20-year-olds going, "Hey, we're going to sprint and flip these tires and do this thing." He's like, "I'm
Yeah, the
good."
shenanigans. Yeah.
The shenanigans that I love, and usually I like to try to create because it's a fun camaraderie. I love competition kind of things, but he doesn't do it. So for me, that to me is like the example. He is my age, and he's got a program. It works for him. He doesn't deviate, and I also respect. I really respect that, even though I want to always be in the mix with the top dogs, even though I probably absolutely should not be.
Yeah. That's a tough thing. And I guess what that takes is some humility
Totally,
and some intelligence to realize, it's time to modify, right? You can't,
totally.
just like what you're talking about with the neck injuries and all that stuff. There's certain things you can't do. There's plenty that you still can, or you can still stay and be a savage, but we got to be smart about it. So
You
I
know what's
think,
oh,
go ahead, go ahead, go
no,
ahead.
you know what he kinda reminds me of is, you and I were both early CrossFit Games fans,
Hmm.
early and
Yeah.
early CrossFit fans.
When it was
The
rad.
the Finnish savage Mikko Salo kind
Yeah.
of changed CrossFit because at the time, they
Oh,
were the
yeah.
hardest workouts that you could possibly do, and nobody, like, somebody did Fran, you would lay down in a heap of on your back, breathing crazy in a heap of your own sweat, and he stopped that, and everyone said, "How come you don't lay down? You're not as tired as they are?" And what did he say?
I can't remember the term.
But it was something like the Finnish word for in nature, that's what a dog or an animal does in defeat.
Right. It's defeat. Right.
And I forget the sisu or maybe something like that.
Hold on. We got to look this up, dude.
But I
We,
love that because do you remember when we saw some sort of YouTuber interview with him and we would always lay down in defeat because that's what CrossFitters did.
yeah, you wanted to make the sweat
You
angel on the ground.
pushed
It proved you worked hard.
and we didn't have my zones, but we knew we were tacking out and redlining our heart rate, and we would lay down in defeat. And he said that, and you and I never laid down ever again.
The meaning of the word sisu, it's a Finnish word. It just means a deep and tenacious form of courage, determination, grit, and perseverance, especially in the face of adversity. That's what the word means. But his message was exactly what you stated, that laying on your back, you were defeated. You had been defeated by the workout, and he refused to be defeated. And dude, you're right. since we watched that and listened to that, I'm not gonna say never because that is probably not true, but I don't lay on my back after workouts.
But we always used to, right? And
Right,
I
before
I'm
that we
kinda
did.
I'm kinda hoping I'm gonna credit, I did have a cup of mud water before we started,
Oh,
and I'm telling you, there's a little bit of nootropic benefit. Somehow in my brain, I remembered Sisu from 2008.
that's good, that's
I never
good.
remembered that ever again. But anyways,
What's
yes.
that coffee mug? What's going on with that coffee mug? Does it have
I
some
don't
sort of
know.
extra appendage on the
It's
side of
one
it?
of the wife things. That's my pen.
Oh, I thought there was like a pipe coming out of the side of your cup.
No, that's one of my
Some
wife's
sort
things.
of weird straw situation, sorry.
But that kind of falls in line, right? Like, hey, if Echo Charles says we don't grunt, we, I think it's probably a good thing to just it's a not it's let's try not to grunt. I also think it's kind of like look at me. I do it with my kids.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
oh, help me up, baby, help me up.
right,
Ah,
right.
and I get in. But I also that turns into me grabbing her and tickling her or wrestling her or something like that. It's kind of like a I don't know, how do you explain that? But so there could be good things, but it is an attention seeking type of, like you want people to know, even though we're doing it subconsciously, that you're in the room.
Yeah, and that you're hurting, which is so fascinating. But it is definitely something, I mean, we do it audibly, so there is an aspect of that that means we want other people to know. I think some of it's subconscious too. I think there's a lot going on there. It's incredibly interesting. It's going to be fun to see how long it takes to train yourself to not, you
Oh,
know?
dude, I think it's gonna be how do you I mean, but now that you're aware of it, I think we're gonna be it's like buying the red Subaru, you're gonna see nothing but red
You're gonna see them
Subarus.
all over the place. Yeah, I know I do it all the time. It's gonna be like trying to stop cursing, which a bunch of our friends are currently
Godspeed.
engaging in attempting to do that. It's hard. It takes time because we've trained ourselves into that, but I think it's gonna be fun. I think that little bit of extra consciousness on that one thing then will lead to something that we're always trying to do, which is to
Mm.
find other hard things that we don't wanna do and go do them, and then look at it from the perspective of, "Can I go do that hard thing and not complain about it or be quiet about it?"
Yeah, and
Bec
I mean, we're in a new everywhere we go, and we are in this space. This guy's talking about mental health, PTSD, and all that stuff. And one of the main things is to make it just awareness or what do you call it? Comfortable that the guys can talk about their thing. This kind of goes into line of the old school way of saying you're hurting, but you don't say anything,
Hmm,
right? And so it's good, right? And that's that stoic thing, but you think about those World War II vets that came back, they had shell shock, they just didn't say anything, and they just went to work, and they were saying, "Grandpa was just always kinda angry and didn't really talk too much."
hmm.
You knew he saw the worst things in the world, and he didn't say much, and so then, we fast forward to now and we're like, everybody wants to talk about it and everyone wants and it's good, but we lose a little bit of that. I think as a men, we always respect that quiet Mandalorian stoic.
Yeah, that's much tougher because we've definitely, I think, swung way too far in the opposite direction culturally, where if you're online, you see people sharing about everything, right? To an extreme,
Yeah,
which is
this
too
is my
much.
truth. Right.
Right.
Whatever. Right.
That kind of stuff, that's too far. And then, yeah, the guys from the greatest generation that you're talking about, they didn't do enough. So finding that middle ground with that emotional side of it is definitely that's a thing because as men, there are definitely times I feel like, especially as husbands and fathers, where there might be burdens that we just need to bear quietly because that's just our job. But it doesn't mean that we should be doing that with everything, right? Because we can't carry all that stuff
Right.
quietly. Some of that stuff needs to be shared with the wife. Some of it, when your kids are old enough, needs to be shared with the kids. A lot of it needs to be shared with your brothers, right? Your friends. So finding that balance, I think it's probably pretty well, this is interesting. I was about to say, I think it's probably pretty obvious that you shouldn't do any of that on social media. And
Mm.
as I'm saying that, I'm thinking, Kevin and I are on a podcast right now, and we've been doing this for 5 years, and that's exactly what we
This
do.
is
Now,
what
we
we
don't
do.
talk about everything, but we talk about a lot.
But it's
So
balanced though.
the balance, yeah.
But I'm always a fan of Tim Ferriss, who has just an enormous podcast. Wrote the 4 Hour Work Week, the 4 Hour Body. but he lived in Japan and spent a lot of time studying the samurai and all that kind of thing. And he talks
Mm.
often about the samurai immediately after the most horrendous battle. And they're battling with swords. There's blood all over them. They would immediately go and do calligraphy or that Japanese type of calligraphy art
Oh.
and explore their creative side and kind of like wind down after just slicing people's heads off.
Hmm.
But it's that balance of the a dangerous man, whatever it is, and like a weak man is not a good. What is that whole thing? How do you say it?
Oh man, I didn't have any mud water. It is. Uh, I'm gonna screw it up. A
Yeah, it's all right.
dangerous man, a weak. I'd have to look it up, dude.
We
I
gotta look it
feel
up.
I feel like an
It's a
idiot.
Jordan Peterson quote that we've said on here before, but essentially that you have that danger under control. It's the Dave Tebows of the world who could absolutely kill you with his bare hands. He's a high level black belt in jujitsu, but he absolutely does not have it. He has a calmness about him because he's comfortable in the eye of the storm. He's comfortable in a fight, and he's trained this for 20 years. He could kill you, but he chooses not to choose violence.
We need that guy
Echo Charles.
to sit
Jamie, look
there.
this up.
Yeah, Jamie. Jamie, look this up. A harmless man is not a good man. A good man is a very dangerous man who has that under voluntary control.
That's it.
That's why I couldn't remember it. I don't talk like Jordan Peterson.
No,
He
nobody
sounds
does.
way more intelligent than
Plus,
me.
he's from the North, Canadian.
He is Canadian. Canadian.
Now we've deviated far from grunting from the chair, but I think it falls into the line of saying, could you be a stoic and not grunt in the chair or not complain about when the bell goes off? Could you
Mm.
just get up and do your job, right? And then when you're called to do, let's say, a significant job, we have to cut a hole on a burning building. Like the ego works there, right? The ego, you want to be confident, strong, aggressive, kick some ass on this roof, right? And then hopefully you're able to know how to switch your hat around backwards. And we've learned tools on how to do breath work, down regulation, so that when you go home, you're now balanced where you're not the savage cutting holes. That doesn't work in the kitchen with your wife and kids.
Mm.
And that is the eternal battle for, I think, for first responders. I think law enforcement even has it dramatically worse than us
Yeah.
because they're 10 or 12-hour shifts, and doing that in the same day or on a night shift or on a morning shift, they're going into war, and then they have to go home. Like at least we have a 24-hour shift where it's sun up to sundown, and the next day, and I have a long commute home. There's some time in between where I can transfer into being what my wife and kids need.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that heartily. So we're gonna stop.
Okay, but I have one last question.
We're done groaning.
Okay, we're stopping groaning. Everybody out there, join us in the we're ending old man groaning.
Thanks,
But
Echo Charles.
we're this is new to the live stream, but Noel has the serial killer Noel Hunter Lilly 3-word thing capitalized, and I
Yeah,
just have
all
Kevin,
caps.
and I just
Yeah.
have Kevin.
I as soon as we started recording, I noticed that and I thought that's really bold and large and
I
overwhelming and
love it.
distracting. I'm going to switch it to just my first name because that
Oh,
looks ridiculous. But
wait,
it'll live forever. This video is going to be on the internet now and we can't take it down. It's
wasn't that a
impossible.
thing? Like whenever like there was serial killers or something, they always had 3
They all
names.
have 3 names, yeah. But it
Your middle
also
name is fantastic.
you also could be like a folk singer, right? Or like a country
Totally,
music guy.
totally. A guy that plays music with no drums. Right?
Yeah, they have often 3 names.
Yes, of
That's a
course.
Donnie Butlerism right there.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Miss you, DB.
Yeah, we do. All right. Well, we've deviated, but I think this is a good thinking. If you're an open water swimmer and you're 90 years old, get a snorkel.
Invest in a snorkel. Keep going.
And I don't think Big Joe, thinking back, I've spent time with the man. I don't think he grunts too often getting out. He just goes and does his thing.
I bet he
And
doesn't.
he doesn't, that water, when he surfs, he can't, you know how hard it is to get a wetsuit on? He said,
No,
oh, okay, you're not a
I've never
wetsuit.
put one on.
It's extremely difficult
It
to
looks
put a
hard.
wetsuit on. Then add if you're 88 years old and you've had 2 hip replacements, wetsuits are out. So this
Mm.
dude, when I told him like 8 years ago that we've been doing ice work, we've been going in cold water, we're doing
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, cool story, bro. We've been doing that since the 50s, you know?"
Yeah, just getting in the water.
He
Yeah.
can't get in a wetsuit, so he's
So
like,
he
"Just
just
get in the
surfs
water."
cold. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I do know what it's like to put a sock on after you get out of the shower and you got to go on a call. I know about that. It's probably exactly the same. It's difficult.
That's why one day we're
Yeah,
gonna invent
yeah, yeah,
the slippery sock.
yeah.
And
I
it's gonna
still
be
talk
some
about
sort of
that.
first responder sock. I don't know what the material it is, but you can get right out of the shower or the ice bath or the sauna because we do
Yeah,
all three of these things on duty. And you can just whoop
right
put the
on, right
put the
on.
sock on. It's
Whatever the
called the
material
slippery
is,
sock.
the material will be found like 5 years down the road after it's created to cause cancer because that's how that kind of stuff always works. But it'll be glorious in those 5 years because you'll
Yes.
be able to put your sock on.
And this is recently, I'm just going to add this to the last part of the episode. Dr. Rhonda Patrick, you may have heard her of her. She does
Hmm. Hmm.
studies on everything. She was looking at those forever chemicals, the PFSAs or PSFAs or
Oh,
whatever they're
yeah,
called.
yeah. The PFASs.
You know what is fascinating? So you know the paper station cups, and you get them at Costco, you get them at whatever. It has the plastic lid.
Yeah, the
It's a
to-go cup.
paper
Yeah.
cup, but it's actually lined with plastic.
Oh
So
God.
because if it's not paper, it's lined with plastic, and that plastic forever chemicals are released by hot water or coffee.
Weird.
So for decades, I have been putting the station. I get a to-go cup. You always have these cool, like stainless steel mugs and stuff, but I like the to-go cup. You just get it, you toss it, whatever. Apparently, I've been poisoning myself for years.
That's terrible, dude. I use the to-go cups too, and sometimes I'll even make a cup of coffee in the to-go cup, and I'm not going anywhere because it cools off faster in the paper cup.
Yes.
Because I do have a Yeti steel cup that I've had for a long time, but the coffee never cools off, so you can't drink it. So I will
No, you
often
can't.
use those cups because the coffee cools off immediately and you can
I wanna
drink
drink
it
it right now. Yeah,
right now, right
and
now.
then for me on the squad, like, I have a if I have a mug and it looks
Oh,
like
yeah.
this, I can't
Right.
bring this on the squad. I need
No,
a
no,
to-go
no,
cup.
no. Plus, at some
And you
point,
how do you run a call in the morning without coffee? It's
it's not
impossible.
possible. It's impossible. Well, thank you for jumping on board. This has been fun. We have promised certain people that we will continue to do video versions of these. So if
Alright.
you like it, like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. That's what people say. Leave us some comments.
Yeah, and if you're anybody in the AI world, help change the face there, so because we we got faces for radio, we need
You
make
want like
us
a
look cool.
filter? You want a filter to make us I need to work on my lighting because it looks like I look
No, just work on
pale.
the
I look
hairline.
like Jim Gaffigan right now.
Yeah, the boat docks are coming in hard, so
I will be curious to hear if this solves the problem that, if this satisfies Edward and this is like what
yeah.
he wants. We'll see.
Well, the Bruce is amazing, so whatever we can do to help. This has been the Fire You Carry podcast.
And then we need the button so I can just play the music right here.
Doo, 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 bah.
Stop.